Continuing this morning, found an article about Louisiana man dies after contracting bird flu, marking first U.S. death. Now the media, being that they're vampires and werewolves, are probably jumping for joy at something like this. We should be quite nervous that the CDC is pushing this the same way they push something else. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's get into a little bit here. Louisiana man dies after contracting bird flu, marking first U.S. death. And it goes into how he had tested positive, but he did have underlying conditions. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? I'm going to go to a second story here, and I'm going to point out a couple of things they have in common. This is out of Wisconsin. The first one out of Louisiana. Of course, I'll put the stories in the description. Wisconsin's first human avian flu infection reported along with second poultry flock case. And what this discusses is that a person in Kenosha, in Barron County, the first farm worker in Barron County is tested positive for avian influenza after being exposed to a poultry flock infested with the virus, Wisconsin health officials said Wednesday. The woman is the first person identified with the infection in Wisconsin. Now, what both these stories actually have in common, and what a lot of us really think the goal is both these infections supposedly took place in backyard flocks. So this one in Wisconsin, they specifically cite the flock itself as having 88 chickens and 5 ducks. I know that sounds like a lot, and it is. That's a lot of chickens. However, that is 88 chickens on a farm, free range, able to walk around and do what they want to do. In Louisiana, they don't cite the flock itself, except to say that it is, in fact, a backyard flock. The goal, in my humble opinion, is the elimination of backyard chicken flocks. Because what you're not hearing, and this is the crazy part, is in these giant factory farms with hundreds of thousands of birds, and you do hear that there are influenza cases there within the flocks, and the flocks are being destroyed. And in this article here, in the Louisiana article, they discuss that. Let's see, there we go. 130 million birds have been infected, and all those birds have been destroyed, greatly reducing the U.S. chicken flock also, by the way. But those chickens have been destroyed. And in the large factory farms, it's an insurance issue. It's just an insurance issue for the company. They just write it off. There's an insurance loss, they get paid for it, and they're fine. The people that worked there are usually, gotten rid of, because a lot of these places are not reopening. Or they're being bought out by conglomerates. Imagine that. It's almost like they're using agency power to go after smaller, independent, and including individuals, to eliminate them as any competition as the factory farm industry continues to grow in scale while reduce itself in volume. What do I mean by that? They're not really increasing the size of herds or flocks. These chickens that are being destroyed, only a small percentage is being replaced. The U.S. beef herd is the smallest it's been since the 1960s. I'm going to bring that up. The U.S. cattle inventory is the smallest in 73 years. This is from the American Farm Bureau Federation. The United States farm cattle herd has a sharp drop of 4% in inventory in 2022 and 2023. All cattle and calves herd in the United States were 87.7 million. Okay, so what this says is that the United States cattle herd, that's beef, obviously, is the smallest it's been since 1951. So we have a dwindling beef herd, a dwindling chicken flock, as the corporate factory farm end of things grows in scale, but like I just said, reduces in volume. Some people would say that's efficiency. It is, but it's also driving up prices. And the reason for this reduction isn't because of necessity. It's because of a avian flu outbreak that they're now saying is going into the cattle herd, as I pointed out in a story in a previous video that NBC News had reported. Let's bring it up here. Key warning signs about bird flu are all going in the wrong direction. And they're talking about a mutated virus going into the cattle herd and, as we've discussed here, into human beings in other states. They're pushing this as the next coof, to make you scared, to live in fear. Live in fear is the ultimate goal of these people, for you to literally live in fear, cradle to grave, nanny state. Except the nanny state with an iron boot. Oh, JR the content dog is awake. But their goal is the elimination of the individual flock or the small farmer flock. The individual with just a couple head of cattle or a couple of goats. Or the small farm with just a few cattle and a few goats and a few swine and other things. And I live out here in farm country. I can tell you that most of the farms around here have small amounts of cattle, small amounts of chicken, small amounts of goats, small amounts of all kinds of animals because they use their excrement as fertilizer on their crops. I live in an area where most of the farms around here are 150 to 500 acre farms. I know it sounds like a lot. It's not. Those are considered small farms. And most of the other people around here who have individual lots of land like I do have chickens, have goats, or they have creatures. Gardens. Everyone out here has a garden. The goal is the elimination of the individual's means of sustenance, to make you dependent on their factory farms, to have you eating their bugs, to get one of the greatest means of protein in the history of the world, the egg, to become so expensive that it's budget breaking, and that you do not have the means to go out to your own coop. I'm pointing right now to where my coop, in the direction of my chicken coop. So you don't have the means to go out to your coop and get that little perfect thing of protein. They're coming for your freedom, they're coming for your chickens, they're coming for your flocks, they're coming for your herds. If you have the ability, if you have the means to have chickens, check your local zoning. You will be surprised what cities and towns allow chickens. I know the city of St. Paul does. Inside the city of St. Paul, you are allowed to have a small flock of chickens. I wouldn't be surprised if cities like Coon Rapids, Mounds View, Blaine, where you're allowed to have a small amount of chickens. Check your local zoning, because I can tell you, I had 4. We are now we're 4 years into it. I'm from 4 chickens down to 2, and I've had thousands of eggs. Thousands of eggs. I had so many eggs I literally didn't know what the hell to do with them and destroyed most of them. They're free. If you live in a warm climate like Florida, get chickens. Literally having chickens may be one of the signs soon that you are an individualist, a constitutionalist, an old style American who wants to live a life of freedom. Not that you want to impose your lifestyle on anybody, unlike, another group, where you just want to be left alone. Have a couple of chickens, have a couple of goats, have some milk, have some eggs. Slaughter a chicken every now and then, slaughter a goat every now and then, but not to be completely dependent on a factory farm system that is clearly killing us. Their goal is to get you away from it. They're using the bird flu as the scare means, the fear mongering, to get you to do it. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. But that's all I got on this. I do appreciate you. Thank you.